I picked this up at a used bookstore a few days ago for $10, and it's not a first print or anything. It's like 11th printing. But I've always really liked this book. I've never seen the movie. I'm familiar with it, but I've never seen it. But it's the 300. And for those of you not familiar with it, it is the story of the Battle of Thermopylae, where the forces of Persia are about to invade Greece. And all that stands between them and entering Greece is a fairly small contingent of Spartans along this narrow pathway in the Battle of Thermopylae. So, I was a fan of Frank Miller in the 80s. I remember as a kid reading his first, Daredevil run when he first started writing and drawing it. And in my opinion, he changed comics before he did Dark Knight Returns. I mean, he changed comics with that. He changed Batman with that. But he was the first one to really do the cinematic style where you just didn't have a lot of words because the action conveyed the stories and what was going on. So you could read his Daredevil run, you could read an issue in 5 minutes and then have to wait another month for the next one. So I got this, and I just really love the art in this. First of all, I love it's a nice hardcover, and also I like the fact that it's big. I'm a big fan of larger books, magazines, size periodicals, larger books. I think that most art benefits from a larger size. Some art, I think with, like manga, usually you have in digest size, but the art is made so it fits that framework, so it doesn't really lose anything. But I think that I'm a usually bigger fan of bigger pages. And the art here is just really amazing. This is Frank Miller doing something other than Sin City or doing something like that, but just this whole cinematic scope. And I'm just gonna slide these 2 pages over as much as possible. This is just one big two. This almost looks like a 2-page spread. It's not, but it almost looks like one. And then it starts off with 480 BC, and it just goes through these characters. This art's wonderful. Again, it's very cinematic. I love these, this overhead shots, all these geometric type of patterns here. Just a really good use of this format. I love Frank Miller's earlier work in his 80s. I don't think the work he does today is anywhere as good as it used to be, and I know art style changes and they get older, but I think that his best work was probably in the 80s and maybe early 90s, and after that, not so much a fan. But this is somewhere in the late 90s, I believe, and this is just really solid. Just making this pass look like a pass. You just have this one shaft of light here, the great use of shadows. There's a lot of things that he's used. This is that famous pass that the Persian army has to go through. And just this use of white here just to block the light, and this Rembrandt type of lighting. It's just a master cartoonist who's at the top of his game. And this is just great. This looks like something that he's done a million times before, like for some of his images of the hand or whatever, but it's just so well done. I love, again, more of these geometric type of patterns. And the Spartans and the Roman and all these armies, they were trained to be like this. This isn't, obviously this is for comic books, so it looks cooler, but they were trained. These were professional soldiers. And so to me, it's not that much of a stretch that this is so tightly done, so tightly drawn. Again, it goes through the battle. It's just a beautiful use of art. And one of the things that I like about this book is that, and I've been thinking this and saying this for 20, 30 years. Lynn Varley, who was Frank Miller's wife, I don't think they're married anymore, but she's his colorist here, his colorist in Dark Knight Returns and in Ronin. She, in my mind, does not get enough credit for elevating Frank Miller's art. I've seen some of the pencils for Dark Knight Returns. They're cool, but it's nowhere near as cool without the colors. In my mind, the colors is what makes this book. Obviously, yeah, Frank Miller wrote the story, he penciled it, he had all these ideas, but she was able to take the colors and just elevate this thing. And that's one of the things that I like about this book. It's just, this is where having the right colorist, you know, either breaks a book or in this case just lifts it to another level. It's great there's a great feast for the eyes. It's a good story. It's interesting, really cool, very well done. I like this. I love this thing. Just like all these spears and just how geometric it is and all this. Just this cinematic, again, a cinematic approach. This is a really great book to read. And so if you can find this in a good shape, if you can find this like at a used bookstore, I would pick this up. And if you've never read it, I think you really enjoy it. Even if you've seen the movie, I have not. But the book itself is interesting. And again, it's just a feast for the eyes. This is, to me, like Frank Miller's last really great work. And I'm not a Frank Miller hater. I have... Electra Assassin, which he wrote. I loved his Daredevil run from the 80s. I've loved his Batman Year One, Dark Knight Returns. I've read some of his Sin City stuff, which I thought is pretty cool. I'm not as versed in it. But to me, this is like the best last thing that he did. And so if you haven't read it, if you can check it out at the library, check it out. If you can find it used, pick it up. It's a great book. Thanks.